Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today we are from Group 1, are going to present our study on the optimal duration for HRV analysis using machine learning. Okay, this is table of content of this presentation. For the introduction part, what is heart rate variability or known as HRV? Okay, HRV is the fluctuation in time of the interval between the successive heartbeats or HR. Okay, HRV is supposed to represent the heart capacity to adjust to changing condition by recognizing and reacting fast to unpredictably stimulating stimuli. Next, we go to the problem statement. As for the problem statement, okay, currently the recommended duration for HRV recording is 5 minutes as the short-term recordings and 24 hours as the long-term recordings. But then, long-term HRV evaluation has not been widely integrated into conventional medical treatment or personal health monitoring. It is due to the analysis is complicated and difficult to replicate. Despite the fact that the short-term HRV measurement does not need ambulatory monitoring or the expense of the long-term analysis, it is still underutilized in medical care. One of the many reasons for the limited uptake of short-term HRV testing is its prohibitive time cost. Another problem with the current method or time duration of the HRV recording is subject during the recording tend to move because the duration of during the recording is too long. So the data that will be obtained will be less accurate due to the movement by the subject during the recording session. Okay, so from the issue we have stated and I explained before above, the optimal duration for data acquisition for HRV analysis is yet to be determined as many issues that I mentioned before arises from the current recommended duration, which is for the short term is 5 minutes. Therefore, this study aims to determine the shortest optimal data acquisition duration for HRV analysis without affecting its accuracy. Okay, next we move on to the objective. The first objective is to extract heart rate variability HRV features using time domain analysis. And the second one is to analyze heart rate variability HRV features using machine learning to determine the optimum duration.
Now on to the literature review. The literature review can be presented in many theories, first of which is the ECG analysis is the preferred indicator of heart rate variability analysis. According to this source, ECG analysis recording is preferred to estimate HRV variables due to high accuracy and significance in terms of the QRS or R peak detection and artifact corrections using the electrodes. Thus, it is said to be superior to other techniques, which issues are more artifacts caused due to movement against the skin and only depending on the IBI, as opposed to the ECG signal, which has more accuracy compared to these other techniques. The second theory presented would be HRV analysis with the aid of machine learning. According to this source, the capability of HRV indices to provide clinically valuable information was assessed through the creation of machine learning models. These models were trained to predict the ECG parameters, taken into account the HRV indices as input. 4 different models of machine learning algorithms were used, one of which was RF, neural networks with multi-layer perceptron algorithm, K-nearest neighbors, K-star estimator, and support vector machine using the SMO algorithm, and it turned out fairly successful, thus indicating that machine learning does have its pros. Another theory presented, on the other hand, is machine learning has its cons. According to this source, there are concerns about the black box nature of many machine learning models. What is black box? It stands for models that are sufficiently complex, in fact, extremely complex, that they're not straightforwardly interpretable, thus affecting the clinical actionability of these models.
So for the methodology, this figure shows the flow of obtaining the optimal duration for HRV. First, we will start with the problem identification, data acquisition, and signal processing. After the HRV features extraction and we get all the data, here we go to the data analysis using the machine learning, and after that, analyze the result and select the optimal duration. So for the data acquisition, 10 samples of ECG signal at rest and stress were selected. So for each signal's length will be 10 minutes. And for the signal processing, the selected data were imported to the MATLAB for the signal processing. From the chosen data, periods of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 minutes were selected from the start of the total recording. And next, for the HRV feature extraction, the time domain was used to extract the HRV features, and the measures that included in time domain analysis were, first, the standard deviation of the normal to normal intervals, we call it as SDNN, and this is the formula of the standard deviation of all RR intervals. Second, root mean square of the successive difference, we call it as RMSSD. It is the square of the root of the mean of the sum of the squares of difference between adjacent RR intervals. So here is the formula of RMSSD. Next, we will go to the standard deviation of the average of normal to normal intervals. We call it as SDNN. So the standard deviation of the average of RR intervals in all 5-minute segments of the entire recording. So here is the formula of SDNN. And for the percent of normal to normal interval greater than 50 ms, we call it as PNM50. So NM50 count divided by the total number of all RR intervals, and here is the formula.
For the second stage of our simulation, the data analysis was carried out using machine learning in MATLAB. The classification learner app was used where the extracted data were imported for the 5 different time intervals. At a time, the specific time interval that needed to be analyzed was selected, and the parameters including response elements and predictors were set. Finally, cross-validation was chosen using 2 folds. After setting all the parameters accordingly, the fine tree model was implemented and the train button was selected using all model types to compare and find out which training model had the highest accuracy. This method was repeated for all the time intervals. After that, the following are the scatter plots and the confusion metrics that we obtained from our simulation. The accuracy of the model is computed from the confusion matrix by the classification learner. Now for our results and discussion. For our results, we have accumulated all the data we obtained in this table. The column shows all the 5 different time intervals, and the horizontal row shows the results obtained in each training session. Finally, the average accuracy was calculated and noted in the last row, and it was seen that the T2 showed the highest level of accuracy. So for our discussion part, 4 time domain features were extracted from the HRV recordings. Cross-validations were performed to overcome the overfitting problems. The average accuracy obtained were 48.33, 57.9, 46.67, 50 and 51.67 for all the 5 time intervals respectively. From the results, the highest accuracy was 57.9% for 2 minutes time interval, and the lowest was 48.33 for the 1 minute time region. The optimum duration for HRV analysis was seen to be 2 minutes, as the model achieved the highest accuracy in that time interval. Although 2 minutes achieves the highest accuracy compared to the other time intervals, the accuracy that we obtained were considerably low. We do think that there are some factors that may contribute to this limitation. First of all, small size of data were used to train and test the model. Only 80 data were used to perform the classification, where 40 data are from baseline and another 40 data are from the stress recording. The less data might lead to the uncertainty of the model, and the model is not well trained enough to be validated. The feature extracted from the time domain results in random numbers. There is no specific range for every parameters that were used in the machine learning model. Therefore, it leads to the subject variability. To overcome the limitations of our study in future, we can perform data augmentation to increase the data. A larger data set would lead to better prediction by the model. Normalization technique can also be performed to cater the subject's variability.
Conclusion. The machine learning incorporated into the HRV analysis has pros, provided a larger data set is used and a consistency is seen with less variability in subjects, and this problem can be solved by using normalization. On the other hand, machine learning also has its cons, of which possesses extreme complexities, and this is termed black box as aforementioned.